Welcome to the globaltqm.com podcast, where we teach e-commerce business owners how to source the best products from China, negotiate with Chinese manufacturers, navigate Chinese business culture, and grow your business to seven figures and beyond. David Hoffman is the founder and CEO of globaltqm.com, your team on the ground in China. With over 25 years of experience doing business in China, David and his team at globaltqm.com have the know-how and experience to overcome any challenge you'll face sourcing and manufacturing in China.
I have a guest for you that is calling in the middle of the night from his offices in Hong Kong and China. And I want to talk all about today the entrepreneur journey internationally and what it looks like to work with other cultures. Some of you are probably listening, and in your business, there might be some element, whether it's trying to outsource a product, whether it's having services or an editor across seas or something like that. You may be thinking you already work with different countries, or you're thinking about that. And I just want to jump in with my guest today, who is David Hoffman. He's a serial entrepreneur like myself and like so many of you. He's built many multi-million-dollar companies, and his company is called Global Regency, and he's shipping products over 200 million to 40 different countries. He's been the CEO for over 15 years, and he's an expert in specifically China sourcing, supply chain work, private labeling, brand licensing, and he's worked with licenses and services for huge brands like Cuisinart, Kmart, Walmart, Bunnings, Aldi, and has offices in 6 different countries. So this is the guy, again, that knows how to do this stuff. When I thought about getting my first outsourcer in the Philippines or in India or in China, I had no idea where to go, no idea how to start, and I just knew it would be a nightmare on my own. I'm glad to bring on Mr. David Hoffman. David, how are you, my friend?
Great, Matt. I'm good. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Doing outstanding. Let's start by placing your accent. Is it a combination of places, or did you grow up static in one country for a while?
Static in one country, and I'll let you take a wild guess.
I mean, it sounds South African to me.
You got it.
Come on. All right.
Yeah, well done. Most people say it's New Zealand, so you nailed it.
Yeah, no, they're somewhat close. I used to do a lot of work in New Zealand and put on events over there. And yeah, you don't have the same, they switch the I's for E's, and you got to get that down.
Exactly. If you hadn't lived in New Zealand, most people make that mistake, but you're right. There are some little nuances that give it away.
Yeah, it's those little tiny things. It's like, oh, my hip hurts. My hip really hurts.
Oh, that's pretty accurate.
It's just a wee little bit of pain. Actually, that's starting to get Australian. Anyway.
Exactly.
I fell in love with, let me start by saying I've never been to China yet. I fell in love with some Asian cultures. We actually did our honeymoon in Japan, drastically different, I know.
Love it.
But yeah, I just fell in love with Asian cultures and even the South Pacific. I used to work a ton in Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. So I love that side of the world. How did you go from South Africa to deciding did you just branch out and say, I want to go anywhere besides here? Or was it like an opportunity that pulled you in?
Yeah. So it's an interesting story because I was, I think, 25 years old when I left South Africa. And what actually happened was I was with this public company. We had a public company at the time, and there were a lot of changes going on. There was a merger going on, and I got this opportunity to move out to Hong Kong. Literally, the plan was to come out for 1 year. We had a sourcing office here under that umbrella of the company, and we were going to unbundle it. And I had this grand plan to come out here for 1 year, and then I was going to move on to Australia. My dream was to live in Australia. A lot of South Africans try to do that. And I thought, okay, this is how it's going to work. And 16 years later, I never left. I just got sucked into, as you say, the culture, the East, just business opportunities here. And I just always say, I am where I'm meant to be.
That's a really, really great way to see things too, because it's probably true.
Yeah, very much so. And it's the last place I thought. I mean, I was adamant. It's a year and I'm out of here. There's no ways I'm staying. And I just couldn't have called it more wrong.
Man, it's so like that with so many things in life, isn't it? We're like, I'm going to do this job for the period of time. Or, when I was 17, I got my first real career job in the mortgage business and working with these brothers. And I thought, I started off telemarketing and I thought, I'm just going to do this for like a month or two to get some money. I'm going to figure this out. and then it became
Exactly.
a whole career season for a decade. When you first
Exactly.
when you first landed there, what were the biggest culture shocks, and what did you find actually was easier and flowed easier than you expected?
Matt, I don't think anything flowed easier than I expected. I think when I first got here,
I love
I
it.
think, yeah, I think maybe the nightlife scene was a lot better than I expected. But um, on a business level, it was hard. Culturally, Western management are quite different. We're very outgoing. We speak what we feel, we say what's on our mind. We can be aggressive and hard and kind all at the same time. And what I found, at least with the Asian or Chinese culture, I should specifically say, is there's a hierarchy structure, and there's a culture of saving face, and just being polite and saying yes when you really mean no, just because you don't really want to offend or insult anybody. And I really found that difficult, um, because I'm used to people being straight up with me, and being straight up with people, and it just couldn't be more different here. And I think it took me a really long time to adjust to that, and to kind of to cut through that, and find ways to manage within that framework.
When you first landed, again, just get a little bit of the backstory for Hong Kong and for leaving South Africa. Did you
Yeah.
grow up in a family in South Africa that understood entrepreneurship? Was that something that was like in your heart early on? Were you like selling candy at school? And or as I always say, my every listener gives me grief on social media all the time at Matt Browning if you want to follow me. Um,
Yes.
but they always give me grief about the one question I always ask is, did you have a lemonade stand? Were you that kid who like figured out how to make money, or were you just in a career trajectory and you were going to work for this company forever? And what
No.
what were your parents like? And yeah, so lemonade stand, and then what was the family dynamic like?
Matt, my story was a little bit different to that. My family, we had a very close, warm, loving family, but we had a very financially unsuccessful family. From the age of about 9 or 10, my father's business went into liquidation. And at a very early age, I witnessed our family losing everything that we had grown up loving and caring about, from homes and cars and things like that. And it left quite a big dent in me, and it became very disruptive to the family life. And so from about the age of 13, I just started becoming so focused on business and how to do things for myself, and how to not, kind of became over defensive, and how to not let, I didn't want to be in that situation ever again. So, I was very lucky that, from the age of about 16, when I started working, getting part-time jobs, at the very early age, got a job where I found a really good business mentor, who just kind of sucked me in, and it actually sucked me out of university, stopped the studying, just because I found this mentor that managed to grow me inside a company that I was working for. And I was lucky that I managed to then learn about how to be an entrepreneur through that experience, I think. But it was very much the financial struggles as a youngster that really made me, determined to not be in that situation. And I still feel that way.
What was your first money making venture that you remember? How old were you?
Well, no, I was 16 when I started working at the grocery store.
At the grocery
um,
store.
yeah, I started working at the grocery store packing bags, and then I started working behind the tills. But I must say, in about 6 months, I was running that grocery store. The supervisors were leaving the keys with me. I was running between the bakery, the deli, the tills. I realized I quickly had an aptitude for things like that, and a lot of people depended on me. And I made myself. I always feel like one of the best things you can do is wherever I worked, I made myself more valuable to them, that they relied on me and depended on me so much, and they got used to me being there. And that always kind of gave me a strength, because, you know, um, people didn't want me to leave, didn't want me to go. And I just feel that's a great lesson, make yourself valuable to whatever you're doing.
And you also mentioned when you started going kind of cross department. I think this is a really important aspect because even if someone you're listening to this conversation and you don't have your own business and you're thinking about it, or whatever. Let's say you're in that job market. Um, there's always that entrepreneur heart that you can bring to an organization. And when you're saying that, man, I relate because in my first, work with my two real estate mentors, Joe and Ed, right
Yes,
away, I just started going, oh, I see. There's like this telemarketing department, and there's the processors, and there's this, and there's the relationships. And I just started kind of helping in different areas. For you,
absolutely.
is that the kind of thing when you said aptitude, I love that word. Is that the sort of thing that you feel like you just really have a natural propensity for? And if so, do you believe other people can learn that? Is it a mindset you can take on, or is it more of like a DNA sort of thing? What's your take on that?
I don't know the right answer. I feel like it's a mindset thing and you can learn it. For me, like learning all those other departments, I was happy to do it partly because, the more you knew and the more you learned, the more you got paid. So there was a financial motivation. But I mean, I definitely can say, to this day, working those cross departments, um, everything you did just became easier and easier because the more you understand about how the other areas work, the easier your job becomes and the easier things become. And I think once you kind of reach that kind of tipping point where you get it and you understand it all, things become a lot easier for you, and you can do the same things with less effort and energy. I always, I even tell my son, I say, like, my second job, which was working in an accounts department, opening new accounts for a big retail group. I say that experience in that department was one of the best experiences of my life because I saw inside how big companies work and their paperwork, their administration, and their archiving, and it just blew my mind. And I still apply so many of those principles to things I do today because I know what's possible.
But such an
I know what
education
things
you can
look
get
like.
there. How old's your son?
11.
11, man. So my son's 8, 8.5. You would say it's very important right now.
Oh, nice. It's a big age.
But so at that age, what's your dream for your son if you have one, or is it, hey, do whatever you want to do? Would you want him to work in the business with you? Would he take it over? Would you want him to go his own way or be a doctor?
so,
Like, what do you see in your son at this point?
so I always say to him, I want him to find what he's passionate about as quickly as possible because like if you find that, like, I think we're lucky we're living in an age now where it doesn't matter what you want to do or what you like, you can make a lot of money and be very successful doing it. So I just say, like, find what you really love and what you're really passionate about, and let's just like double down on that. To me, like the worst thing is to find your passion too late. I think the sooner you find it, the better, and that's what I kind of try to tell him. But like,
Wow.
I, and I do say to him like all the time, I go like, you got to learn, coding and software and design because it's the language of the future. And if you can't do that, you don't know what's possible, and you can't even manage people around you. And I actually have come to the conclusion that I don't want him working in our business. Um, I think it would be better for him to first work in another business, another company without that kind of personal connection and let him feel what it's like to be a regular person making it on his own. And when the time's right and he's got the right skill set or he's got the right passion, if it makes sense to be involved in my business, then absolutely I'd love it. But I don't think I want it to be his first experience.
I love that. So you don't want him to come in at 16 and be the boss's son and then,
No,
work. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate that. I speak on stage for a living and people ask, is your son going to take over and be the next you? And I'm like, I really don't think he's going to be the next me. I think he's going to be the first him. And he's
exactly.
very
It's a
different
great,
than I am.
exactly. And I think it's important for them not to be under pressure firstly. Maybe they're going to do bigger and greater things. Let's not assume that what we're doing is the right thing for them.
Yeah, very much. I know we're going to talk about your book in a second too, but I thought the last book I wrote, The Firebox Principle, was about entrepreneur drives and entrepreneur origin stories. Ties in with the podcast and the radio show, of course. But
Yes,
I didn't realize how many people had a driving force to overshadow like their fathers or their parents. Like a Rupert
yes,
Murdoch, for instance, his father was very successful, but then he comes
yes,
out and goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna take this over at 22 and really make it something," and blew it up way past Adelaide, South Australia. There's so
yes,
much. Did it I don't know how to ask this, but, like, when you said your father went through a meltdown in business and you were
yes.
very young at that point, Do you feel
Yes.
like, and it might be an unfair question, but go wherever you want with it. Do you feel like he's bounced back from that, or did he move into another season, or is that something that kind of still like sticks and stays, if you know what I mean, like in life?
Well,
The
I
hard thing.
think I think it's different for everybody. I think in our case, it stuck and stayed. And it was just my kind of driving force not to be in that position and to kind of get our family out of that position. Um, but I've seen other people bounce back and learn from their mistakes. One of the things I always feel like, if I look at my personal situation, my family's personal situation, I greatly believe that, like, what my father lacked in his business career was a great mentor, and the right people, the right advice to mentor him and guide him, because you don't know what you don't know, and you learn all the time. And I think, like, I was lucky to find that person in my life, and manage to develop it. And, like, I look at a lot of the mistakes he made. Anybody would have made those mistakes, right? It's just there was no one around him supporting him, advising him, motivating him to carry on or to do something different. And that's, like, sad in a way.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Well, it's good to hear, and the success story too of the children and the next generation. So I'm excited for you and for your son. I'd like to switch gears and really get into the working in China. I'm getting excited as I'm looking at your website here. And guys, you can check it out if
Sure.
you're not driving. It's global
Glo-
tqm.com, globaltqm.com, and you can see everything about David and what the business is. So my first, the big China question I always think of is, when I think of China, I always think of made in China. And I think of, if I don't have a big products or big promo products I need, I feel like I don't need to do any business there. That's probably not accurate. What else do what else does that bring to the table, the relationship with China and working with someone like you outside of products? And we can come back to products too, but I know there's more to it than that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think when you start doing business in China, or purchasing from China, finding manufacturers in China, there's a big cultural difference between the East and the West, in how business is done, how relationships are managed, and just kind of getting to the nitty gritty of the details. There's language barriers, there's cultural barriers. And I think people underestimate that. And, I've certainly found, through the years, like that, just having people in the know on the ground to accelerate that, saves a lot of time. It saved us a lot of time in the past. And, the whole reason Global TQM actually started was because we handle huge supply chain projects in China for retailers, for large brands. But I couldn't really help a small entrepreneur do it. But I had loads of friends coming to me, people I know, just saying, "Hey, speak to Dave. He's the guy in China. He'll help you with your problem." And they'd, like, call me up, and I'd say, "Well, look, let me get one of my people to call your factory, see what's going on." And we'd solve it in an hour, and they were struggling for 2 weeks. And it was really simple things, like they just weren't communicating right with the suppliers, or they didn't understand something, or there's just misunderstandings. And my staff would call and speak to them in Chinese, come to me, tell me the story. I'd wrap it up in an hour. So I really, like, I struggled for years to try to find a way, like, how can I bring what we do to kind of small businesses or small entrepreneurs, guys who can't afford a whole infrastructure in China and pay a fortune. And, over the years, it took me a good 2-3 years to figure out how to model Global TQM, and that's the goal there. I try to bridge that gap.
Love that. So let's talk about some of the reasons why I might want to do something in China.
Yeah.
I'm startup entrepreneur, and again, like maybe I don't, and we can talk about products. But let's say I don't have a product business. I don't need to get, my new widget outsourced or anything. But
Yes.
I need technology. I have websites. I have, customer service people. I have lots of things. What are some of the best reasons to get through and start either hiring, whether it's Chinese companies or people? Why would someone outsource for that? And what's the best place to go for it?
So, I mean, I think China is still predominantly, from a business perspective for the West, a sourcing ground to find manufacturers for products.
Yes.
I know a lot of people are starting to outsource some software here, but I do still think that, with there's still language and communication barriers. So I'm not sure whether, I think, we do software development in India, for example, and some in the Philippines,
I
because
see.
the language is just quicker and easier. So I still feel like there's two choices really. It's one, purchasing products from China and finding manufacturers here, um, or it's trying to find a way to sell your product in China. And that's like something people don't think about a lot, but it's a huge market here. And the Chinese,
Let's talk about that.
yeah, yeah.
What kinds of products are like what kinds of products would go really well to maybe blow up and have a huge market to sell in China? Yeah, because I always think of it reverse. That's incredible.
Yeah, so the Chinese consumer here actually love quality products, and if you look at Japanese products are huge in China. In fact, a very good friend of mine just launched a website in China with all products made and sourced in Japan, and their whole focus is selling products into China from Japan, because the Chinese love Japanese products because the quality, the craftsmanship, they actually know and appreciate that. They love German products, for example. They love Korean products because you see, the Chinese consumer understands manufacturing actually, and they understand what low quality is, what good quality is, and they actually appreciate these foreign products coming in. So if you got good products or access to good products from your countries, I think China's a wonderful opportunity, and it's a lot easier now online to do that.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
So, in reversing the roles, if I want to outsource and pick up products, what's the difference between going to like an Alibaba or something like that, right? Where I go, I need to get 500 widgets.
Yes.
When should I go just to whatever website and just buy the things versus have a relationship with a manufacturer? Is it a volume size? Is it a quality thing? Is it a price thing? What would make me want to go get a relationship versus just buy wholesale from some website?
So I think if you're going to be doing something regularly and consistently, you definitely want to have a relationship, because a relationship it kind of ensures you get, well, it's the first step, I should say, towards getting consistent quality and reliable deliveries. I think ordering off a website like Alibaba, it's got its share of risks, and it depends. You don't know if you're dealing with a manufacturer or a trading company. You're not sure if the sample they're sending is going to be the same as production, so you would want to check the goods at the factory and do an inspection before they leave. But I think it's about like consistency. And I think building a relationship with suppliers is always good, because you get new ideas through that. Like, you might start off with product A, you find a good supplier for it, and you find out, oh, they're manufacturing a whole lot of other products. And you go, oh, I can do 2, 3 products now. So if you're really serious about selling product, you do want to build relationships with suppliers and visit them and visit the trade shows. I'm actually at the Canton Fair now in China, which is one of the world's, if not the world's biggest trade show. And it runs over 3, 4 days. And we must have 10 people running around the show looking for product ideas.
Looking for product ideas from the trade show vendors, and then what would you do with those?
Well, we'll take them, we'll order samples, we'll show them to customers, we'll test some of them online, and we'll hopefully bring them to market. Maybe we'll modify some of them and customize them a little bit. But I mean, there's some great ideas, and there's a lot of, the manufacturers come up with their own ideas all the time. And, it just leads you in different directions.
So you could be like, if you're good at online marketing, or you want to do Facebook ads or a Spotify store, or not Spotify store, what, a Shopify store.
Shopify.
Yeah,
Yes.
not Spotify store. But if you're looking for things like that, and you are good at SEOing websites or at doing advertising, you could easily, what you're saying is, you could easily head to the trade show in China, find a great product that you didn't have to invent, know the sourcing, build a relationship, and then you do the marketing, selling, bringing it in.
Absolutely. And I see products all the time at these shows, and I go, why is nobody selling that? It's like awesome.
Can you think of an example for me of like a product you saw that that it's okay to share about because you have you're already doing it, maybe that maybe I haven't seen before?
No, I mean, I don't know if you've seen them before, but all these little micro small projectors, they're becoming quite big and popular now.
Yeah.
I was seeing those in China 5 years ago, thinking they're amazing. Why don't people do this? And like now, like a lot of people are doing them. And even those balance scooters, those two-wheel scooters that you hover around and zoom around on, they're like mini
Hoverboards.
segways. Those were in China for like 2 years before they became popular. And I just like realized like there's like 1 to 2 year lag between people starting to show things at the trade shows and then somebody twigging onto them and making them popular by doing the marketing. So I think there's a massive opportunity if you're a good digital marketer, SEO guy, you can do a one product landing page and market the hell out of it, if
No joke.
you got that talent.
Well, you know what I love about that too is it's not too late and it's never too late. Because when you're talking about that, I'm sure someone's thinking, "Oh yeah, hoverboards are already done," or whatever,
Yeah,
or fidget spinners, right? When when our kids were getting into that.
exactly.
But
People,
every
yeah,
year there's more stuff, isn't there? Because every year it takes time for enough marketers to get a hold of a new idea. And it's just because it came out and one guy puts a landing page doesn't mean it's going to be going viral. It's going to take time to do that.
exactly. And not one guy can have 100% market share. So, if you're doing your own marketing, finding your own traffic source, building your own customer base, you'll get business on it, right? And there's a lot of guys doing that, I must say.
You're getting me excited here. Why have I not been trying to source products from China and market them here? I'm going crazy right now. This is exciting.
Well, Matt, my challenge is the opposite. I've got all these products and I'm looking for great digital marketers that can help me launch them and do amazing stuff online with them.
Well, if you heard it here first, you heard it here first. David Hoffman is looking for great digital marketers. If you are your dream is to have a business where you have again like a Shopify store or a ClickFunnels page or something like that when you want to sell a product. And I'm assuming you can also organize whether it's through a middle person or from them to do direct drop shipping or
Yeah,
that sort of thing. You don't have to be keeping inventory of 10,000 hoverboards.
you don't have to. I mean, you can do smaller orders. I mean, I give a lot of advice to a lot of new Amazon sellers who I consult with and tell them often like rather buy smaller quantities of a product and pay more than sit with dead inventory. And you can do a test run, a trial run, and we've actually backed a lot of ventures like that where we believe in a product and we find guys that can create the sales. We can even finance inventory in some cases. So we're happy to partner up with people. It's all about talent and the right people, Matt. We're entrepreneurs.
That's very exciting. So, how long until you are the next shark on Shark Tank?
I
Because
don't
that's
know.
what it
You
sounds
tell
like, man.
me.
I love. Let's see if we can get you introduced, man. This is great. Well, guys, you can follow David Hoffman again on the main website, Global TQM. You can, of course, follow them on Facebook, Global TQM on Facebook and all social media. But if you head over to the website, this is exciting because I've been checking this out right now. And a couple of things they do is, number one, you have right on your page, which I think is so cool. You can schedule a call and just have a conversation and learn what you want to learn, ask what you want to ask, and find out whether it's about products, whether it's about services, whether it's about selling in China, buying in China. If there's if the Chinese landscape and business is anywhere in your alley or you should be knowing about it, you can just schedule a call with David and his team and they'll chat with you. And you also have a free book on here. This is really cool. It's called China Sourcing for Startups. So I'm just getting into it now. Your company sent me a copy. Um, I didn't realize there was a link right to the book before, so I started getting into the book. It's quite cool. There's all about packaging and artwork. There's about how to get what you expect and like you talked about with the sample versus the actual product run, how to do payments, protecting your intellectual property. I mean, it goes on and on. Literally, like everything you need to know about working or importing or sourcing from China is there. Can you tell us what your favorite part of the book or why someone wants to grab that? It's free, by the way, on globaltqm.com. Just grab it. Again, if you're driving, make sure you pull over, but you can grab that right now. Yeah, what's your favorite part of the book, or what's the real reason why someone wants to get into that? Because it's exciting to me, but I know you wrote it, so I want to know your perspective too.
I wrote it a while ago, so I don't remember all the details. But Matt, I just think it's a good all-round book for people. It covers everything from like A to Z on what it takes to get involved and things to be aware of. So I think if nothing else, it's great if people are just thinking about it or toying with the idea of sourcing products from China and want to know more about what it takes. it's a great little easy guide to read, and then from there, they can talk to people like us and we can handhold people through it. And as you said, those cause aid book, I do a lot of them myself. I've got another guy, Simon, who does a lot of them. He's very knowledgeable and experienced. And I mean, those are completely free calls. And even if people just want to bounce ideas off us or get, or just, see where to go, what to do next, it's all free advice.
So look, if you want to answer 9 questions to weed out bad suppliers, you understand the Chinese cultural differences, different product areas to focus on. And there's so much in the book. I love it. Excited. So again, it's China Sourcing for Startups. You can grab that book and it's free on David's website, globaltqm.com. And you can follow him on Facebook, globaltqm.com. David, thank you so much for making the time. And I know it's getting late. I'm going to let you get to bed soon. Final kind of question as we wind down here is, looking back especially in your family history, if you could change anything about your story growing up, what would you change? Or would you leave it all the same?
It's a good question. I think I would leave most of it the same. There's a part of me that says, would I go back to South Africa and do things differently on the home ground, and rewrite that story of how it ended. But, I'm happy where I'm at now, and, you got to look forward.
Got to look forward, words to live by. David Hoffman, thank you so much for your time, my brother.
Matt, thanks so much for having me. It was a great interview. I appreciate it.
That's the interview with David Hoffman this week. Again, I want you to remember to go out to globaltqm.com and you can get his free book. You can get everything you need for that. Follow him at Global TQM on Facebook as well. And remember, follow me if you haven't already, because we're always going to put up cool interviews and leadership, memes and things that, just get you excited and wake you up in the morning. Plus, you can actually see what my 8-year-old son looks like. It's on my Instagram at Matt Brauning. Make sure you follow me on all social media there.
Thank you for listening to the globaltqm.com podcast. So you don't miss a single episode, remember to subscribe to our show on iTunes. We'd also be very grateful if you'd leave us an honest rating and review. And don't forget to download your free gift, our ebook on China sourcing for startups at globaltqm.com/gift.